Hey, what's up, sports bettors? It's Matt Modi here with OddsJam. What I'm going to be doing in this video is giving you my Week 2 betting preview. Full preview of every single game played this week, giving my official predictions against the spread, my official predictions in terms of the total, the over-under, and then whether I would actually bet and or have placed that bet or not. So every single game I'm going to give a prediction, but that doesn't necessarily mean you should bet every single game. So I'm going to be telling you which games I would actually be looking to bet. I did this last week. I went 9-7 against the spread. I will admit I picked the Broncos. As the week went on, I was waffling on that. I officially changed my pick to the Seahawks in terms of what I bet. If you guys are a member of the Discord, which I'll put the link in the video or in the description of this video, I actually locked in Seattle as one of my official picks. But because on the record, I put the Broncos, I counted that as an L. So I went 9-7 with my picks against the spread. So the cool thing about going through all the games and looking through the lines and all that stuff is you can do that for completely free on OddsJam. So if you go to go to oddsjam.com, you go to sports, you go to NFL, it pulls up literally every game, and it pulls up all the different sports books and what they're pricing odds, main markets, all that stuff for every single game. And you can do this for completely free. So every single page that you are going to see me use in this video is going to be something you will be able to access for completely free, no matter what plan you're on, which is pretty cool stuff. So obviously, have to start with the Chiefs versus Chargers. Thursday night game. Chiefs are the home team here. Pretty awesome. Going to be an awesome game. The odds have slowly started to shift in favor of the Chiefs. At one point, you could get them at minus 162 money line. Now the best odds you see are at minus 200. Not really feeling a money line play. There's not any value either team on the money line. In terms of the spread, Chiefs are about 4.5 to 4-point favorites. I actually like the Chargers in this one. I think that they're going to cover the spread. To me, this has the feel of a field goal game. Now, this wouldn't be something that I would officially bet, but to get a prediction, I like the Chargers in this one. Justin Herbert has consistently played well against the Chiefs in his career, even in that first start against the Chiefs, where, if you remember, he wasn't supposed to start in that game. He found out 10 minutes before the game that he was starting. This is his first ever NFL start. Found out that he was starting 10 minutes before the game because the Chargers training staff literally punctured the lung of their current starting quarterback, Tyrod Taylor. Just an insane story. But what ended up happening was Herbert came in and he played incredible. The Chargers lost that game in overtime. So Herbert in his career, even if you include that game, is 2-2 against the Chiefs. The only 2 times he lost, both of those losses happened in overtime. So the Chargers have consistently played the Chiefs well. They would have covered this 4.5 spread in 3 of the 4 games they played the Chiefs. The one game they didn't, like I said, went into overtime, and the Chiefs scored a touchdown. So I like the Chargers to cover the spread on this one. It's not going to be something that I would officially recommend you betting, but in terms of the actual pick against the spread, I'll take the Chargers, and you can lock this in at plus 4.5 at minus 107 odds on PointsBet. That actually seems to be pretty good value, considering every other book is heavily juicing the Chargers at that number. But my official bet, what I like the most, is the over in this game. Now, I get that the over has been bet up. So I got the over at 53.5. It's been bet up to 54.5. I still like it. There still is some value there. The OddsJam prices the over at 54, but favoring the over. BetOnline has this price at 54.5. So if you get it at minus 105 on PointsBet, FanDuel, or DraftKings, I like it. Every single game that the Chiefs and Chargers have played each other in Herbert's career, the total has gone over this number, except for that first one. That was the only game in which one of the 2 teams didn't score 30 points. Every other time this total has gone over. It's a Thursday night game. Thursday night games can always be a little bit wacky, but I really like this one. So if you can get it at minus 105 on one of these books, I think it's worth it. But maybe you can wait as the day goes on and hope if you can get a better line. I would like to get this at 54, but I'd still take it at 54.5. And like I said, I locked it in personally, but I got it at 53.5. So this next one, Ravens versus Dolphins. So we got the Ravens favored here. Not surprisingly, the Ravens are at home. In this one, they're about 3.5 point favorites, minus 180 money line. Over-unders at about 44.5, 45. I actually like the Dolphins in this one. I really like the Dolphins defense. I think that they'll be able to do enough to slow down Lamar Jackson. The Ravens offense, despite having those big plays, didn't actually perform well on a drive-to-drive basis. They basically had 3 touchdowns. 2 of them were from busted coverages against the Jets. You're not going to get that against the Dolphins. And while I'm certainly not a Tua guy, I think that what you saw last week is pretty much what you've seen his entire career. He doesn't have the arm strength to really get the ball where it's needed. They live in the crossing patterns, the slants, the screens, stuff like that good defenses are going to be able to snuff out. So while I expect this one to be a lower scoring game, like I like the under in this one more so than I like the spread. But to give a prediction against the spread, I will take the Dolphins at plus 3.5. So riding the dogs early on this one. You can get the Dolphins at minus 108 on BetRivers, which does have a little bit of value as they're the only book that is shading towards the Ravens on this one. Every other book pretty much has it at even money. But thanks to using the OddsJam line shopping tool, we can get them at minus 108. And as you can see, BetOnline, OddsJam, they think the more likely scenario is that the Dolphins cover this number. So I like that. But my favorite bet, as I said, is the under. I think this is going to be a low-scoring game, as I mentioned. The Ravens offense, the point total they put up last week is a little bit misleading. The Dolphins, same thing. Both teams had success on offense because their defense was so good. The Dolphins only gave up 7 points. The Ravens, I think, gave up 7 or 10. And that was at the very, very end of the game on a last-second touchdown. So I expect both of these defenses to look good again. So I like the under in this one. Under 44.5. Get that at minus 107 on PointsBet. One thing that's cool that PointsBet is doing is they are, as you can see, they're not juicing the odds as much. They have only 15 cents in market width, and here they only have 14 cents. Every other book is giving you more than that. So just something to keep in mind moving forward. Check out PointsBet. They're doing a really good job of not juicing up their plays a lot, not charging a lot of VIG. And if you haven't used PointsBet, you can just click this link here and sign up and get the promo bonus that we have with them. So that's it for Ravens, Dolphins, Browns, Jets. So this game's going to be pretty boring. Jets at the Browns. It looks like the value here is on the Browns minus 5.5. If you look at the odds here, both BetOnline and the OddsJam line, pulled from Pinnacle, the sharpest sportsbook in the world, price this spread at 6. And the OddsJam line actually favors the Browns at 6, but you can get them at minus 5.5 at minus 107. So I kind of like the Browns in this one just based on the math. Again, PointsBet pricing this at minus 107. That is a positive expected value play. I also like the under in this one. Jacoby Brissett, Joe Flacco, that obviously this total is very, very low. But BetOnline prices it at 39.5. The OddsJam line has it heavily juiced towards the under at 40.5. And you can get that at minus 112 at BetRivers. So I think that is going to be my favorite play. So I would choose the under over this game as my favorite play over the Browns minus 5.5. But that's just really good value, getting the Browns at minus 5.5. So that's going to be my official prediction is the Browns minus 5.5. And then I guess I will take the under 40.5 on BetRivers as well as my favorite play of this game. But that's a boring one. Don't need to spend too much time on that one. Another boring one, Commanders at the Lions. I can't remember the last time the Lions have been favored in a game like this. I was surprised that they were favored considering the Commanders won and the Lions lost. And the Lions, people are going to be excited. Oh, they only lost by 3. They were down by 17 in like the fourth quarter. They just scored 2 straight garbage time touchdowns, made that game closer than it needed to be. But I'm not necessarily buying it. With that said, certainly not buying Carson Wentz. He basically gifted that game to the Jaguars in the fourth quarter, throwing 2 straight interceptions. But then in typical Carson Wentz fashion, immediately followed that up with 2 straight touchdowns. So, I mean, if you look at his counting stats, pretty good, over 300 yards, 4 touchdowns. But those 2 interceptions were brutal, absolutely brutal. And the Jaguars had a dropped touchdown. They had a missed field goal. The Jaguars should have won that game because Wentz gave it to them. But then he took it back because the Jaguars said, no, we're good. I think the Lions are actually, despite the fact that I'm surprised that they're favored, I actually like them in this game. I would take the Lions at minus 1.5. They played with a ton of energy in week 1. They got the loss, but I could see them knowing that this is a winnable game against the Commanders, coming out with the same exact energy. And the Lions did play the Eagles tough. Like I said, a little bit fool's gold just looking at the final score and saying, oh, wow, they only lost by 3. But they scored on like 4 of their last 5. They scored touchdowns on either 4 of their last 5 or the 4 straight drives to end that game. They scored at the end of the second half or end of the first half. and then like majority of their drives in the second half. So their offense actually did look good, especially DeAndre Swift. Goff got enough work done to his weapons like Chark and all that stuff. And the Commanders, they have a rough passing defense. Like I said, they should have lost to the Jaguars last week. They only won because the Jaguars said, no, we're okay. But I actually like the over in this one as my favorite play. So you can actually get the over. I was looking at this on the positive expected value play. So if you view alternate lines, it pulls up where every book is pricing this, even the alternate lines. And you can get this over on WinBet at 48.5. So this is actually going to be my favorite play of the game. This is an official bet that I have locked in. As you can see, every book is pricing this total either at 49 or 49.5, including the OddsJam line, including BetOnline. Prices it above this number, and you can get it at 48.5 on WinBet. So this is going to be my official favorite bet for this game, is the over 48.5. And then in terms of against the spread, I will take the Lions -1.5 at -110 odds, or -115 odds on FanDuel. So a little bit juicing it towards the Lions. I still like it at that price. So next one, another gross game. Don't worry, the good ones are coming at some point. The Jaguars hosting the Colts. Colts have this weird week one thing where they can't perform in week one. I don't get it. They haven't won a week one game in Frank Reich's entire tenure with the Colts. And there are some despicable losses in those games as well. They lost to the Jaguars in 2020 when that was the literally only game the Jaguars won that entire year, was week one against the Colts. Last week against the Texans, a team that is projected to have the worst record in the entire NFL. They started slow. Their passing offense looked horrible. They dropped a touchdown. They missed a couple kicks. They cut their kicker. Like, this team is just not, for whatever reason, not ready to play in week one. The Jaguars, like I said, they were gifted that game against the Commanders. They said, no, we're okay. So I actually like the Colts to cover the spread in this one. You can get them again at -107 on PointsBet. I think that the Colts are going to cover. I know there's been some weirdness with the Colts playing at Jacksonville. Like, they haven't won a game in Jacksonville in forever. I think that will come to an end. I think they cover the spread. The Colts figured some things out in the second half of that game against the Texans. They're like, oh yeah, if we just run the ball and don't let Matt Ryan pass, we'll be good. I don't think they're going to keep missing kicks. I don't think they're going to keep dropping touchdowns. So give me the Colts -4 in this one. In terms of the over-under, looks like the over-under is priced at like 46.5, 47. I like the over in this one. I think points are going to be scored. You can get that at -110 on FanDuel, DraftKings, and BetMGM. But my favorite play in this game is the spread. Not an official bet, though, just my prediction. Next one. I mean, the spread is close. It's supposed to be a close game. I don't really think this one's going to be that exciting. The Saints offense isn't that exciting. I know they came back and won against the Falcons, and that was very exciting, but lost in that shuffle is that they had to come back against the Falcons, another team, along with the Texans, that could finish the year with the worst record in the entire NFL. Of course, in typical Falcons fashion, they blew it, but lost in the shuffle is at the Saints, how bad they looked to begin. They're not going to get that lucky against this Bucs team. They're going to have to play well for a full 4 quarters. That's a tongue twister. And there's some weird stuff going on with the Bucs Saints, and that the Bucs have never beaten the Saints in the regular season since Tom Brady has been there. In 2 of the games, they didn't even score a touchdown. They got shut out one game. They only scored 3 points another game. But with that said, the Bucs did beat them in the playoffs on the road when they won the Super Bowl 2 years ago. So at least they have the most important win. But just a weird thing that they haven't beaten the Saints. The Saints have consistently given them trouble. But this is a completely different Saints team. There's no Drew Brees. There's no Sean Payton. And I'm not quite sold on the Saints yet. And their defense is missing some pieces from last year. They're down like 3 safeties from last year. They're down a couple offensive linemen, including their first-round pick. And just because they won last week against the lowly Falcons, having to come back, I'm not buying it. So I like the Bucs -2.5 on this one. You can get that at -110 on PointsBet. Another scenario in which teams are favoring the Bucs, the sharp books, I should say, are favoring the Bucs at -3. Granted, they're favoring the Saints at that number, at the 3 number, but obviously getting it a half point below that is very, very important. The Bucs win by a field goal, which is 3 points, and they cover the 2.5 point spread. And they would obviously push the 3 point spread. So there's certain numbers that are very important to get behind or get above, depending on if you're backing the underdog or the favorite. 2.5 to 3 is very important when you're backing the favorite. So getting this at -110 on PointsBet, I think is really valuable. Every other book is pricing it above this amount. Minus 120, minus 115, minus 118, minus 115, minus 115. Because PointsBet is not juicing the market as much as all these other books, you can get some good value on them. So I like the Bucks minus 2.5. That is actually going to be something that I would recommend betting, the Bucks minus 2.5 on this one. I think their defense is going to be able to shut down the Saints offense. And I do have concerns about the Bucks, specifically their offensive line. I think that they'll be able to do enough, almost like the Cowboys game last week. Well, they'll be able to move the ball enough, and they won't allow a ton of points, which will lead them to be able to cover. The over-under in this game, I like, unsurprisingly. Looks like the value actually is on the over. I would have guessed that the value would have been on the under, but you can get the over at 44. BetOnline prices that at minus 115. The OddsJam line prices that at 44.5 and favors the over on this one. So while personally, I would have thought the under would have been a better play here, I'm going to go with the value. You always stick with the math and with the value. So the over 44 will be the prediction for the over-under, but the Bucks minus 2.5 is my favorite play for this game. Next up, another gross game. Boy, this is tough. Giants, I think they're hosting the Panthers. Panthers are underdogs here. The Giants, even though they haven't had a winning record since 2016, this is the first time they've had a winning record since 2016, are favored in this game. The betting markets are favoring the Giants to start 2-0, and I just can't get there. I like the Panthers in this one to cover the 2.5 point spread. Last week, we saw Baker Mayfield start the game off horribly in typical Baker fashion. He overshot a receiver, leading to an early interception. But that was Baker's, obviously, his first game with the Panthers, and of course, it was against his former team. Now, we saw a significantly better quarterback, Russell Wilson, similarly struggle to start a game against his former team. Obviously, the Russ going back to Seattle is way, way different than Baker going back to the Browns, but not in Baker's eyes. He thought it was just as important. So he was hyped up for that game. He was missing throws. He needed to settle himself down. And when he did, the Panthers scored 17 points in the fourth quarter. Granted, their defense blew it and they gave up a field goal to lose the game. But I like the Panthers in this one. I think that they're going to win straight up. I like them as an underdog pick. I certainly like them to cover the spread at 2.5. I think the Giants are getting a little bit too much love for that win against Tennessee. They beat the 1 seed from last year, but that was a fluky 1 seed from last year in the Titans. They didn't even finish the year top 20 in DVOA, or I guess they did finish 20th, So Advanced Analytics had the Titans as the 20th ranked team in the entire NFL, significantly favoring them as one of the worst teams. And the Giants, keep in mind, while they did score, and I give Brian Dable props to going for the win at the 2-point conversion, like that is awesome. I think that is a great coaching move. You have to keep in mind, Daniel Jones had 2 turnovers, 1 interception, 1 fumble, typical Daniel Jones. They gave up 5 sacks to a good Titans defensive line. The Panthers have a good defensive line as well, led by Brian Burns. And let's not forget that after they got the lead, went the 2-point conversion, got it, they easily gave up a drive to Titans, just drove down the field, got them in field goal range, and would have won if they had a better kicker. So I think that we're giving the Giants a little too much credit for that week 1 win. They still looked bad. Now, Saquon looked incredible. That was amazing. It's great to see Saquon look good, but Daniel Jones looked as bad as ever. He threw a pick in the red zone. Give me the Panthers in this one. I also, if you're looking at the total here, looks like the under 43 is the play. You can get that at minus 107, again on PointsBet. A lot of these bets on PointsBet because they're giving such good odds, but I don't think the offenses are going to score a lot, so I'll take the under here. But I love the Panthers. Another official bet that I would actually recommend taking is the Panthers plus 2.5, or you can take their money line, which has some value as well, at plus 125. So next up, we have the Steelers at the Patriots. Or the Steelers are home, The Steelers are home. Yeah, this game is going to be terrible. Look how low this over-under is. Another super low one. And I like the Steelers. Mike Tomlin is historically great at covering at home as an underdog. Granted, they're not huge underdogs in this one. They're only by 1.5, but they're still underdogs. So a ton of books are offering them at plus 1.5 at minus 110 odds. This is an official bet that I really like. I think the Steelers, they won last week against the Bengals, but that was almost an unimpressive victory considering they had 5 turnovers, or they had 5 takeaways. They forced the Bengals into 5 turnovers. Losing TJ Watt is going to hurt a lot, but that's still a really good defense. And I thought the Patriots just looked awful against the Dolphins. They only scored 7 points They couldn't get anything going through the passing game. They couldn't get anything going in the running game. So I like the Steelers in this one, again, in a low-scoring game, but I'll trust Mike Tomlin as a road underdog. But my favorite play in this one, taking the under. You can get that at -107, again, on PointsBet. I already mentioned how terrible these offenses were. So the Steelers scored 23 points off 5 takeaways. They had a defensive touchdown, which is telling you that their offense scored 16 points on the remaining 4 turnovers. That's terrible. The Cincinnati Bengals defense was good in the playoffs last year, was not good in the regular season. The Patriots defense is relatively good, and they're well coached by Belichick. So I'm not expecting these teams to score a lot. Also, Najee Harris is either going to play banged up or he's going to miss the game. It's just going to be a gross game. I wouldn't be surprised if both of these teams ended up in the teens. So give me the under in this one, under 40.5, -107 on PointsBet. Both of those bets I actually like a lot. I would officially recommend taking them. Steelers +1.5 and the under 40.5. So that is the end of the 1 o'clock games. Starting with the 2 o'clock ones, we have the Rams as monster favorites against the Falcons, and I get it. And I'm riding the Rams. I'll keep this one brief. Every year, I find 1 to 3 coaches that I call bet against coaches, meaning they're terrible. Bet against them. They don't know what they're doing. They're going to get fired after the year. They're living on borrowed time as it is. In 2020 was a legendary bet against coaching year. Adam Gase, Bill O'Brien, Matt Patricia, 3 legendary bet against coaches. Last year, Joe Judge, Urban Meyer. This year, the first bet against coach is going to be Arthur Smith. The dude is in over his head. He has no idea what he's doing. He's been snotty with the media his entire career, which is fine when you're Bill Belichick. For a guy like Arthur Smith, who's been horrible, it just comes across as a man that has no answers. He doesn't know what to do, and he's pissed off about it, and he's going to take it out on the media instead of actually coaching. So I'm riding with the Rams -10.5. I know that's a big spread. I don't care. Teams coming off of Thursday Night Football can cover the spread at a considerably higher amount in their first games after that. And the Falcons, they came out hot in week 1 against a division rival. They still blew it. They still lost to the Saints. I think this game is going to be a complete and utter blowout. Give me the Rams -10.5 at -106 on FanDuel. For the total, I guess I'll take the over. If I'm taking a team to blow a team out, I'll take the over 47. I think you can get some better lines on other books, if I remember correctly, if we want to look at this over. So you can get, I guess not, maybe the odds had shifted around. But either way, give me the over or 47. I wouldn't be surprised if the Rams scored 40 points by themselves after a bad week 1 loss. So next one, 49ers versus the Seahawks. This is kind of funny considering the Seahawks won their first game in actually pretty impressive fashion, right? They look good against the Broncos. They won. The 49ers lost against a horrible Bears team. I think Fields completed 8 passes, something like that. Granted, that game was just horrible weather, absolute drenching monsoon. So I do like the 49ers in this one. I think that the Seahawks basically treated that week 1 game against Russell Wilson as their Super Bowl. They put so much effort into that game. I think it's very, very likely they have a letdown game. They can't produce the same energy. And Geno Smith, for as good as he was in the first half, was pretty bad in the second half. The Seahawks, they barely scored. I think they had 1 score in the second half of that game. He had some pretty bad sacks where he dropped too far in the pocket, got hit from behind. 49ers have an awesome defensive line. I will admit this one has risk because of the Trey Lance factor, of course. He might just be a bad quarterback. And when you're a bad quarterback, when you have a bad quarterback, you can lose to anybody, and you certainly aren't going to cover many 10-point spreads. But I'm not ready to throw in the towel on Trey Lance yet. Again, that game, I don't think you can take anything from the 49ers' first game against the Bears. So the betting markets are telling you that they also agree with me that the Seahawks are due for a letdown game and that the 49ers was a fluky week 1 game against the Bears. So I like the 49ers in this one. Give me them -9.5 at -110 odds on Caesars. OddsJam line prices this at 10. Another number that's important to get below because of the field goal and the touchdown number. In terms of the over-under, the over-under is so low, I'll take the over without a lot of confidence. As you can see, most books are pricing it at 41.5 with a little bit of value on PointsBet. That's not going to be an official bet. Just to give a prediction, I will take the over. But I do really like the 49ers a lot on this one. I wouldn't quite officially lock them in at this price yet. I would wait to see how the odds shake out and if you can get a better price on it. But officially going with the 49ers. Next up, we have the Cowboys versus the Bengals. Another gross game. These week 2 games are pretty terrible. Obviously, really tough situation here without Dak Prescott. Even though the Cowboys are at home, they are 8.5-point underdogs, or on some books, it's between 7.5 to 8.5. That makes sense, right? It's unfortunate with Dak Prescott being out, but like this team just has nothing going. They looked terrible even with Dak in the lineup. And with him out, they just have nothing going on. Their offensive line is banged up. They're now missing another starter. That is now 4 starting offensive linemen from last year's team that is going to be missing this game. And the Bengals, for as bad as they looked last week against the Steelers, they're playing another really good defensive line. Obviously, Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence are probably going to have a field day. But the Cowboys could legitimately score 3 points again in this game. It could be that bad. So I like the Bengals to cover the 7.5 in this game. Like I said, the Bengals aren't shy to blow out inferior opponents. They won 5 or 6. I looked it up. I forget the exact number, but 5 or 6 games by double digits last year against teams that they simply were better than. They beat the Steelers by double digits. They beat the Ravens by double digits, and then some other teams as well in there. So give me the Bengals at minus 7.5 at minus 110 odds on Caesars. My favorite bet in this game, though, is the under. I believe this is another situation where you can get a good alternate line. Let's see if I remember correctly. So, I guess not. So 42.5 under, 42.5 at minus 107 on PointsBet. That actually has some value. Bet online prices that at 42. The OddsJam line gives the odds for that one at minus 117. And all this talk was made about the Bengals making offensive line improvements. They got smoked by the Steelers last week. Absolutely smoked. And now they're going against probably the best pass rusher in the league now, one of Micah Parsons, who has a legitimate Hall of Fame ceiling, who had 2 sacks against another banged up Bucs offensive line last week. So I wouldn't be surprised if this was another rougher Burrow game. Maybe not 5 turnovers like he had last week, but a little bit of a rougher game. So my favorite play and an official bet is going to be this under 42.5. But in terms of predictions against the spread, I will take the Bengals at minus 7.5. Next up, we have the Texans at the Broncos. Another gross game. Huge favorites here. I'm riding with the Broncos for similar reasons why I like the Panthers in their matchup. I think it's tough. His first game with his new team being against his old team in that home stadium, I think is tough. Also, even if you take out that emotional aspect of it, it's a brand new quarterback playing with a brand new head coach, brand new offense. Everything was brand new. And you saw that there were some kinks to work out. You also saw them get to the goal line 3 different times and only get one, not even get a touchdown out of that. 2 fumbles at the 1-yard line and a field goal. That is an outlier. Now they're going against a Texans team that has a coach. He's not quite bet against coach yet. Lovie Smith is getting there. I think it is incredible loser energy to try and play for a tie as opposed to playing for a win. And he admitted this. So if you missed it, Lovie Smith and the Texans had the ball in overtime, 4th and 1 at about the 50-yard line, something like that. They opted to punt. After the game, Lovie Smith admitted that they were playing for the tie because they were scared of losing. And I'm like, the Texans are a team that's going to have one of the worst records in the entire NFL. Who cares? Just go for the win. I think that the players aren't going to respond well to that. I think that is incredible, incredible loser energy. And I think they're going to get absolutely blown out. It's Russ's home opener in Denver. I think they got some of the kinks worked out over the course of that second half when they moved the ball pretty consistently, just couldn't punch it in. So getting the Broncos at minus 9.5, I think is really good. Lock that in on FanDuel at minus 114. In terms of the over-under, I don't have a huge play here. It looks like the value here is on the under 45.5. They're not expecting the Texans to score a lot, which I understand. Maybe the Broncos have a little bit of growing pains, and it's like a 30-20 type of game. Or excuse me, 30-10 type of game, 25-10 type of game, something like that. So the under 45.5 seems to be the play. But my favorite play and another official bet, give me the Broncos at minus 9.5. Next up, and this is the last of the 4 o'clock games, another game in which a team is just begging to have a bet against coach in the Cardinals and Cliff Kingsbury. Now, Cliff Kingsbury is, in fact, a bet against coach. But I normally wait until about week 10 or so when the Cardinals start to suck. This year, it seems as though they are starting to suck at the beginning of the year instead of waiting until the end of the year. So we'll have to monitor how this goes. But talk about a team that just didn't even show up. It was their home opener after an offseason full of turmoil with all the noise around their slow, how they can't finish a season, their slow endings to a season, all this turmoil about Kyler Murray being a bad teammate, being a diva, not working hard enough. He got his contract, and they put the stipulation that he has to study 4 hours outside of practice, which is a weird thing. And then they removed it saying, we trust him. He's our quarterback. I don't really understand what happened there. But after all that, to come out in week 1 and not show up is bad. It's very, very bad. Now, week 1s are always weird when you compare week 1 to the rest of the season. So you try not to overreact too much. But in a situation like that, where the Cardinals needed to come out with some sort of energy and to just not even show up, just lay an egg of epic proportions, I will fade them until giving me a reason not to. So I'm going to blindly bet against Cardinal spreads until they give me a reason not to. So I like the Raiders minus 5.5. I actually think that the Raiders, they looked better than the final score indicated. They only scored 19 points against the Chargers defense, but Derek Carr had 3 interceptions. Their offense got lit up by, their offensive line got lit up by Khalil Mack. The Cardinals don't have the secondary nor the defensive line to do what the Chargers did. And I think that Devontae Adams is going to get hyper-targeted again. Give me the Raiders minus 5.5. This is a smash play. This is close to being my lock of the day. For those of you who recall, I do a lock of the day along with 3 other bets. The Bucks money line was my lock last time. I'm not quite there yet. I need to do a little bit more research to officially give my lock of the day, but I love the Raiders at this one. Get them at minus 107 at minus 5.5 on PointsBet. That is a smash play. In terms of the over-under, the over is also a smash play for me. Same thing, get that on PointsBet. I love points to be scored in this game. I think the Cardinals offense probably won't look as bad, and I'm expecting the Raiders to score high 20s, low 30s. I'm expecting the Cardinals to score mid 20s, something like that. Enough for the Raiders to cover, but I expect points to be scored. So give me the over in this game. Now to Sunday night. Packers against the Bears. Packers at home against the Bears. Kind of funny, similar to the 49ers Seahawks. The Bears won. Kind of impressive game against the 49ers in that rain-soaked game. The Packers looked absolutely dreadful. And yet here we are, Packers 10-point favorites. And I get it. Week 1s are always weird. If you remember week 1 last year, the Packers got blown out 38-3. They looked awful. Now, I don't think you can just say, oh, well, the Packers looked bad last week. Or excuse me, they looked bad in week 1 last year, so they're going to do the same thing they did. I don't necessarily think it's that easy. Their receivers looked like they had some legitimate issues. Christian Watson dropping his first ever target that would have been a touchdown is rough. But all reports out of Green Bay was actually that he was open that entire game, Christian Watson. Rodgers just didn't look his way. He was pissed off after the drop. I think after a week of watching film, after a week of practice, I actually think that the Packers receivers are going to do better against the Bears. And again, because I was willing to remove any negative aspect from the 49ers loss, that means it's only fair to remove the positive aspect of the Bears win in that same game. So the Packers being at home, 10-point favorites. Rodgers, to my knowledge, still owns the Bears, still owns the city of Chicago. So even though this one's in Green Bay, not in Chicago, give me the Packers to cover 9.5 minus 110 on Caesars. In terms of the over-under, looks like the over, I don't have a good feel here. I guess I'll take the over without a lot of confidence, but give me the Packers as my favorite. Next up, we have 2 Monday night games, which I don't really understand why, because they're not even staggered, and they normally do this in week 1. I don't know why they're doing it in week 2. Doesn't matter. First up, Bills hosting the Titans, and boy, are the Bills big favorites. And this one, admittedly, it makes me a little nervous. I don't have a ton of confidence in this one. So I'm going with the Bills because a couple of reasons why. Then you try not to overreact too much to week 1, right? The Bills looked incredible against the Rams. The Titans lost to the Giants. And again, you could say, well, that's a week 1 fluke. You're giving me 10 points for the Titans, the team that was the 1 seed in the playoffs last year. I get it if you want to roll with the Titans. I am taking the Bills for 2 reasons. Number 1, the Bills were betting favorites to win the Super Bowl for a reason, right? The week 1, that wasn't a fluke. That wasn't a bad team showing up. That was the best team coming out and saying, no, we are the best team. And they stomped the Super Bowl champs in that Super Bowl champs home stadium. Now, it's their home opener. You know those Bills fans are going to be jumping on tables. They're going to be excited. And this Titans team, I was ready to fade them going into the year. Like, I took the Giants in that game. I took the spread, not their money line, just to be honest with you. I took their spread, but I was ready to fade the Titans this year. Last year, Their whole offense was run it to Derrick Henry, throw it to A.J. Brown. Now they don't have A.J. Brown. Now, the rookie receivers did look good, I will admit. But this Titans team, as I mentioned before, they were 20th in DVOA last year. They were not a top team, let alone the number 1 seed. It was kind of fluky. And the Titans beat the Bills last year. And as we saw, the Bills are going to be on a sort of a revenge tour this season. So I'm going to ride with them until given further reason not to. So I will take the Bills minus 9.5 on this one. And also, it does look like the under is the play here, which I find surprising, probably because of how good the Bills defense is. So I will trust the math and take the under without a lot of confidence. Just because the math kind of shows you that the under is the play here if you look at how everything is priced. But I love the Bills minus 9.5. I'll actually lock them in on a previous video. I'm going to stick with it, Bills minus 9.5. Last up, my Eagles are hosting the Minnesota Vikings in this one. And call me someone that is too down on their home team. Give me the Vikings. I love the Vikings straight up. I love the Vikings to cover the spread. The Eagles, despite scoring 38 points, despite winning week 1, did not give me a lot of confidence offensively. Jalen Hurts won that game because of his legs. The Lions, for some reason, continued to play man coverage without any contain, without any spy, continually leaving running lanes open for Jalen Hurts. But Hurts has never shown in his career that he can win with his arm. Never. He's never shown that. The smarter defense is, when you saw the Eagles play good defenses last year, they took away his running ability. They said, hey, you throw it on us. By all means, throw it on us. And he couldn't do it. Now, they have A.J. Brown this year, who was phenomenal in week 1. I'm still not sold that Hurts can win through the air. I think the Vikings, with this new coaching staff, is a smart team. I think they're going to say, hey, you know what? You can pass the ball all you want. We will not let you beat us with your legs. I have not yet seen Hurts be able to do that. Defensively, the Eagles gave up 35 points to the Detroit Lions. Their rush defense was horrible. And the main reason why I'm fading the Eagles in this one, mostly their defense, is because I don't think their defensive coordinator is a good coach. I was saying that all offseason. I think he's a bad coach. I don't think he knows what he's doing. He plays these dumb schemes, and they got gashed by the run, and they got gashed through the air. They only got 1 sack, and that was on a muffed snap by Jared Goff. So I love the Vikings in this one. They are actually one of my official underdog picks. If you look, it was the Commanders, the Panthers, and the Vikings. I absolutely love the Vikings in this one to win straight up. I like them obviously to cover the 2.5 point spread. In terms of the over-under, I love the over. I think this is a great play. Honestly, like this game, I love the over. I love the Vikings spread. I love the Vikings money line. I would take all 3 of them. I would recommend all 3 officially as bets. And that's going to be it. So that is going to be my week 2 NFL preview. I know this one was a little bit long, so I appreciate you guys sticking with me. Let me know what you thought of the video. Let me know what I got right. Let me know what I got wrong. Let me know what you're tailing. Let me know what you're fading. All that stuff is super helpful for me to see, and it's also just fun to see as well. So appreciate you guys watching. Other than that, please remember to like the video and subscribe to the OddsJam YouTube channel to get all this content moving forward. And that's it. So thanks for watching. Enjoy NFL Week 2 and have a good one.